In today's video, we're taking an in-depth look at the evolving landscape of the 2024 electoral map and the most recent projections, which give us a clearer idea of how the race between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump might play out. This election is shaping up to be one of the most crucial and closely contested in modern political history, and every single vote will count. We're going to dive deep into each state, examine how the political winds are blowing in the key battlegrounds, and what both Harris and Trump need to do to secure the path to 270 electoral votes. There's a lot to cover, so let's jump in and analyze the state of play. We'll start by taking a look at Virginia, a state that's historically been in a stronghold for Democrats, but is becoming more of a toss-up in this election cycle. In the 2020 election, Joe Biden secured Virginia by a comfortable margin of about 10 points, which helped solidify its reputation as a blue state in presidential races. However, in 2024, Kamala Harris is not facing as easy a race in the state. The latest projections indicate that Harris's margin of victory is expected to be significantly smaller than Biden's, likely reduced to about 5 points. This narrowing margin is a signal that Virginia is not as solidly Democratic as it once appeared, and the Harris campaign will need to work harder to ensure the state stays in their column. Several factors are driving this trend. One of the key reasons for the closer contest is the changing political landscape in Virginia. In 2021, Republicans made significant inroads by winning the governorship, which was seen as a major upset in a state that had leaned Democratic in recent elections. That victory energized Republicans and showed that Virginia was still very much in play, while Harris is still favored to win the state. The fact that her lead is much slimmer than Biden's points to the possibility of shifting political tides. Virginia is currently categorized as likely blue, but the reduced margin should raise red flags for Democrats. The state, while still leaning toward Harris, is a reminder that even in areas that seemed safe in previous elections, Democrats are facing more of a challenge this time around. Moving on, let's talk about two other states that have also been reliably Democratic in recent years, Colorado and New Mexico. Both states were solid wins for Biden in 2020. He won Colorado by an impressive margin of 14 points and New Mexico by around 11 points, which gave Democrats confidence that these states were securely in their column. However, similar to what we're seeing in Virginia, Kamala Harris is not expected to perform as well as Biden did in these states. Projections suggest that Harris's margins will shrink significantly, with her likely to win both states by less than 7 points. This indicates that while Harris is still the favorite in Colorado and New Mexico, she is facing a tougher race than Biden did. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button like this video and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Narrowing margins in these states reflect a broader trend. Harris is struggling to connect with some voters who supported Biden in 2020. These shrinking leads in states that were previously considered safe for Democrats underscore the challenges Harris faces. While Colorado and New Mexico are still categorized as likely blue, the fact that Harris's margin of victory could be nearly cut in half compared to Biden's performance is worth noting. This suggests that the Democratic coalition may not be as strong as it appeared in 2020, particularly as Harris tries to hold on to the states that helped propel Biden to victory. Colorado and New Mexico may remain blue in the 2024 election, but the reduced margins show that Harris has her work cut out for her in maintaining Democratic dominance. Let's move on to Minnesota, a state that Kamala Harris absolutely must win if she has any hope of reaching 270 electoral votes. Minnesota is considered a Democratic stronghold. It hasn't voted for a Republican presidential candidate since 1972. But despite its long history of voting blue, recent elections have shown that Minnesota is becoming more competitive. Back in 2016, Donald Trump came surprisingly close to flipping the state, losing to Hillary Clinton by just 1 point. This narrow result sent shockwaves through the Democratic Party, as Minnesota had long been viewed as a safe state. In 2020, Joe Biden managed to win Minnesota by a more comfortable margin, defeating Trump by about 7 points. But that victory still wasn't as commanding as Democrats might have hoped for, and Trump's strong performance in the state set the stage for a more competitive race in 2024. To boost her chances, Harris has made a key strategic move by selecting Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. Walz's popularity in Minnesota gives Harris a significant local advantage and should help her hold on to the state. Without Walz on the ticket, Harris could be in real danger of losing Minnesota. Even with Walz as her running mate, the race is expected to be closer than Biden's 7-point win in 2020. Harris's ability to secure a victory in Minnesota will be crucial to her path to the White House, but it's unlikely that she'll match Biden's margin. The race in Minnesota will be tighter, but is still classified as likely blue. However, the fact that Harris may not win by as wide a margin as Biden did signals a potential weakness for Democrats in the state. If Minnesota were to flip red, it would deal a devastating blow to Harris's chances of winning the election. So after reviewing Virginia, Colorado, New Mexico, and Minnesota, we can see that while these states are leaning toward Kamala Harris, her projected total currently sits at 226 electoral votes. This is a decent starting point, but it's far from the 270 votes she needs to win the election. To secure the presidency, Harris will need to perform well in several key battleground states, and that's where the real challenge begins. Now, let's shift our focus to Donald Trump's side of the map and examine some of the states that are categorized as likely red. We'll start with Maine's 2nd congressional district. Maine is one of only 2 states that splits its electoral votes by congressional district, rather than awarding them all to the statewide winner. In both 2016 and 2020, Trump won Maine's 2nd district, which is predominantly rural and leans conservative. Trump is favored to win it again in 2024, adding 1 electoral vote to his total. While it's just a single vote in a close race, every vote can make a difference, and this district is classified as likely red. Let's look at 2 reliably Republican states, Alaska and South Carolina. Alaska has voted for the Republican presidential candidate in every election since 1964. And despite some speculation that it could become more competitive, Trump is expected to win the state comfortably once again. South Carolina is another state that leans Republican, but is not as solidly red as some other GOP strongholds. While South Carolina is expected to remain in Trump's column, the race may be a little closer than in deep red states like Indiana or Missouri. Together, Alaska and South Carolina contribute 12 electoral votes to Trump's total, which helps strengthen his position in the race. Now, let's head south to the Sun Belt, where 2 massive battleground states, Texas and Florida, are in play. Texas and Florida are crucial to any Republican candidate's path to victory as they hold a combined 70 electoral votes. Trump won both states in 2020, carrying Texas by about 6 points and Florida by 3 points. However, the dynamics in both states have shifted since the 2016 election. In Texas, Trump's margin of victory was smaller in 2020 than in 2016. But in Florida, he actually expanded his lead, winning by the largest margin for a Republican presidential candidate since George W. Bush in 2004. Looking ahead to 2024, Trump is expected to build on his strong performance in Florida. Some projections suggest that he could win the state by as much as 7 points, which would be a significant increase compared to his 2020 margin. Meanwhile, Texas is expected to be more competitive than Florida, but Trump is still favored to win the state. While some forecasts predict that Trump could win Texas by a double-digit margin, others suggest the race will be closer. Nevertheless, both Texas and Florida are expected to remain in Trump's column, adding 70 electoral votes to his total and bringing him within striking distance of the 270 votes needed to win. At this point in our analysis, Donald Trump's projected electoral vote total stands at 219, just 7 votes behind Kamala Harris. The race is razor thin, and the remaining battleground states will determine who wins the presidency. Now let's examine the last remaining battlegrounds, which are classified as the tilt and lean states. 2 of these states, Arizona and Georgia, are currently leaning in Trump's favor, while 5 more are considered toss-up. Arizona is a critical battleground state that flipped blue in 2020, with Joe Biden narrowly winning by just 0.31. It was a historic victory for Democrats, as Arizona had not voted for a Democratic presidential candidate since 1996. However, in 2024, Donald Trump is looking to reclaim Arizona, and the latest projections give him a 60-68 chance of winning the state. His lead in the polls has been growing, and Arizona is now classified as lean red, meaning Trump is favored. But the race remains competitive. Georgia is another state that flipped blue in 2020, marking a significant shift in the political landscape. Joe Biden's narrow victory in Georgia was a landmark moment for Democrats who hadn't won the state in a presidential election since 1992. However, just like in Arizona, Kamala Harris is struggling to replicate Biden's success in Georgia. As of now, Trump is leading in Georgia with a 63% chance of winning the state. Georgia is classified as lean red, and it's another must-win battleground for Trump. With Arizona and Georgia leaning red, Trump is edging closer to the 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency. Now, finally, we come to the 5 tilt stats: Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. These states are where the race is expected to be the closest, and they are likely to decide the outcome of the election. Let's start with Nevada, a state that has been in Democratic column since 2004. Kamala Harris is currently favored to hold on to Nevada, but Trump is polling well in the state, and there's a real possibility that Nevada could flip. For now, Nevada is classified as tilt blue, but the race is too close to call. North Carolina is another must-win state for Trump. He carried the state in both 2016 and 2020, and he's favored to win again in 2024. North Carolina has been leaning toward Trump throughout the campaign, despite some challenges facing the Republican Party in the state. North Carolina is classified as tilt red, meaning Trump is the favorite, but it's still a competitive race. With North Carolina leaning red, Trump is now just 8 electoral votes away from securing the presidency. He come to the 3 most critical states in the Midwest: Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. These states were key to Donald Trump's victory in 2016, and they are likely to determine the outcome of the 2024 election. Trump is currently leading in Pennsylvania, which has 19 electoral votes. Winning Pennsylvania would likely put Trump over the 270 vote threshold, securing his path to victory. Wisconsin and Michigan are also critical to both campaigns. Trump won these states in 2016, but lost them to Biden in 2020. The races in Wisconsin and Michigan are expected to be extremely close, and both candidates are polling closely. While Kamala Harris may have a slight edge in some forecasts, Trump remains competitive in both states. In conclusion, the latest projections suggest that Donald Trump is on track to win the 2024 election with 281 electoral votes, while Kamala Harris is projected to finish with 257. This gives Trump a narrow but decisive victory. However, with several weeks to go until Election Day, the race is far from over. Both campaigns will be fighting hard for every vote in these key battleground states, and the outcome is still uncertain. But as of now, Trump is in a strong position to return to the White House. Thanks for tuning in to this detailed analysis. If you found this breakdown helpful, don't forget to comment, and subscribe for more updates and in-depth coverage of the 2024 election. Keep an eye on these battleground states because anything could happen between now and Election Day.